It's K Solo today. Don's his final day of vacation. He'll be back tomorrow with me. And Peter starts a long vacation today, well-deserved. So I'm doing it alone. And since I'm on the show alone, I said, I want Jeff Passan all to myself. Can we get Jeff Passan on the air? And they said, yes. He doesn't like the two of them. He'd rather do it with you. So Jeff Passan of ESPN joins me right now. Hi, Jeff.
Michael, that's not true. I don't dislike them.
But you like me better.
I do.
Yeah.
That is true.
There you go.
Yes.
Hope you're well.
You're nicer to me.
I am.
I
revere you. I revere you too. That's important.
Now I know you're lying. You're making me like you less.
All right. So we open the show today with this, and I don't know. I know you're a forward thinker, and I wonder if you could actually advance this a little bit. You're watching the Yankee game yesterday. There are people that paid to go to the ball game, people watching on TV. And Aaron Judge was just walked 3 times. Not allowed to be a baseball player 3 times. And in no other sport does that happen. Steph Curry, you can't touch the ball here. Patrick Mahomes, you can't touch the ball here. Is there any way to curb this? Is there it's got to be a seismic change in rules, but is there any way to change this?
I think the closest facsimile, Michael, is Hack-a-Shack, right? And no, there is no way to do it other than put somebody behind Aaron Judge in the lineup who is going to make them pay and who scares opponents enough that they understand if they put a base runner on that more damage is going to be done and it's not going to be worth the essentially the intentional walk. And look, it would be nice if Aaron Judge had better protection in the lineup, right?
Well, I mean, the only one that would be, if you think about it, Jeff, there are many people that you'd rather pitch to Aaron Judge instead of that person. I mean, if the Yankees flip-flop Judge and Soto, maybe he would not be intentionally walked as much. And Austin Wells has actually hit pretty well, but of course you'd rather pitch to Austin Wells.
Yeah, exactly. You need a third dude as opposed to Austin Wells, who I agree, Austin Wells has been good this year. Austin Wells has been better than good recently. And it's been nice to see because they need somebody like that. And if you look since the All-Star break, Austin Wells is hitting 340 and is slugging over 500. So it's not like you've got some jabroni there, but that's how scary Aaron Judge is. And it's just amazing to me that these two are in the lineup at the same time. Speaking of Judge and Soto, and speaks to how important re-signing him this winter actually is. Because if you just look at numbers since the All-Star break, Michael, there have been 4 hitters who have been absolutely otherworldly around baseball. In the American League. Tyler Fitzgerald over in the National League has been as hot as imaginable. But in the American League, it's been Bobby Witt Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Judge since the All-Star break is OPSing 1450. Soto since the All-Star break is OPSing 1320. And it's the reason why, not just that the Yankees are in first place in the American League East right now, it's the reason why the Yankees are where they are going to be, period. If this team wins this year, if this team advances in the postseason and gets to a World Series, and by the way, I think that is still an eminently reasonable proposition because all of the other teams around baseball, and we've seen it with the Phillies over the past week or so, all of the teams in baseball have flaws, all of them. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think a World Series run is out of the realm of reality for the Yankees this year, despite their flaws. And if they do make it, it will be because, as so many people have said, this is like, it's not a 2-man team, but those 2 men to which so many are referring make it feel like it. And that's the thing, Michael. Like, it does feel like it because they are so much better than everyone else.
It's funny because we both work in baseball, but I'll speak for you in this. I think we both love the game as well. And, I've seen so many years of baseball, and these two are doing things that, every time we look up stats, Jeff, it's Ruth and Gehrig. I mean, those are pretty heady names to be associated with. And I just wonder, is there a way that you could actually let him go? Because I just don't think that anybody gets a blank check in this day and age. But these two are just, generational 1-2, or in this case, 2-3. I just don't. I mean, I hate to see it broken up, but I think the possibility exists because every other team in baseball sees how great Soto is.
They do, but not every other team in baseball is going to be willing to pay him what he warrants. And that's, the part about Juan Soto that's been most impressive to me, beyond all of the physical skills and all of the tools and all of the talents that allow him to be what he is and to produce in the fashion in which he does, he came to New York and owned it immediately. You have seen so many guys come to New York and crumble, whether it is under the pressure, the lights, the scrutiny, all of the things that come with being a professional athlete in New York. To see Juan Soto come to town and pull a Jalen Brunson, that is what he has done so far. I think it screams to the New York Yankees front office, you cannot let this man go. He belongs in pinstripes for the remainder of his career. But boy, I look at this offseason, Michael, and I think Juan Soto is unquestionably at this point going to make more money in free agency than Aaron Judge. And that's where I wonder the politics of it all.
See, but when you say that, though, Jeff, there's no way that Aaron could even care about that, because then the Yankees would never get better, because by the end of his contract, $40 million a year is not going to be a big deal. Somebody has to surpass him.
$40 million is still going to be a big deal. And someone surpassing him 2 years in and surpassing him by $100 million. Now, let me say this. I think Aaron Judge might be the best leader in baseball. Right? Mm-hmm. I really do believe that where Jazz Chisholm scared off a number of teams, the Yankees were comfortable with him because their clubhouse is patrolled, maintained, run by Aaron Judge, and they believed putting Aaron Judge in charge of making sure that Jazz Chisholm, along with Aaron Boone, don't get me wrong, but the players, like that matters. How players take a guy in. And I think the Yankees believed that Aaron Judge was going to be a big key to making Jazz Chisholm work in New York. And we see leaders in other areas, in the NFL in particular, when you've had Tom Brady turn down, the hundreds of millions of dollars that his play warranted in order to make the team better. And you see Patrick Mahomes doing the same in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes doesn't care that he is the 9th or 10th highest paid quarterback, even though he is very clearly the best in all football right now. But I do think it's something to at very least monitor. And I would be curious to hear Aaron Judge's thoughts on it, because Juan Soto is hitting free agency at 26 years old, Michael. It is once a generation that you get a player of that caliber who hits free agency at that age. This is like A-Rod in his prime. And I understand Soto doesn't play shortstop, so there are the defensive limitations there. But the bat, the bat is beyond question. He is a top 3 hitter in baseball?
Yep. It's interesting, though, because the Aaron Judge I know, Jeff, and we're talking with Jeff Passan, our colleague from ESPN, every athlete has ego. So I'm not going to say he's without ego. I just don't think it would make him blink if the Yankees paid this guy $50 million a year. I just don't. Not the Aaron Judge I know. I think all he wants to do is win.
I think you are probably right, but I also think that it is a factor that is worth considering, because Aaron Judge's selflessness is apparent. And I also think that sometimes you can take for granted somebody who's selfless, right? Sometimes selfless people just sit there and wear it and eat it. And at some point, it becomes, okay, like, I understand that this is better for the team, but don't forget about little old me here, who's the best hitter in baseball, because that's what Aaron Judge is right now. He is the best hitter in baseball right now. And I think it's worth keeping an eye on, but at the end of the day, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to preclude the Yankees from re-signing Juan Soto. I think the only thing that will preclude the Yankees from re-signing Juan Soto is the own limitations that they set on themselves as far as how much to pay him.
And also the team across town. Let me get to that right now. So I opened the show saying this: the Mets are going to have an awful road trip right now in terms of the miles they have to travel for, cities, time zones, whatever. It's awful. And forget that they lost 2 out of 3 of the Angels. They can't do that if they want to make a wild card. But I look at the wild card right now, Jeff, and I wonder if you feel differently. I think they're just going to miss it because I think the Braves, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres are better. What's your read?
I think that is correct. But I also, Michael, look at the Mets and where they are right now. I didn't think they were going to be here. I didn't think they were going to actually be in the mix at this point. So I have probably been underestimating this team all season long. And there's such a tiny gap between all of these teams that to suggest that 45, 50 games down the road when this season is over that they're going to be out of it, I'm not there yet. I am not ready to call the Mets dead because the Mets have been zombies all year long. You think they're going through a bad stretch, and it's like, this is it. This is where it finally falls apart. I think they were 22-33 at one point. It was gnarly there, and they just clawed back. So even though they have not been playing their best baseball recently, I don't know that right now I'm going to say that the Mets are done, because even though those other teams may have more talent, even though those other teams may have more recent success, this Mets team has moxie and spirit, and they can really hit. They can. And it is such a bummer, man, that Kodai Senga got hurt when he did, because, God, he looked good out there, and he was exactly what they needed.
Which leads me to my next question. How close were the Giants to trading Snell, and did they not trade him because they did not want to pick up part of that option?
They were not close to trading Snell because I think if you look at their calculus at this point, this was supposed to be a year for them. They went out this winter and they signed Snell and they signed Matt Chapman and they gave 9 figures to Jung-Hoo Lee and they signed Jorge Soler. They really went in on this season. And if you look at the individual performances that they've had, you look at some of the numbers that guys on that team have put up, there's no reason that they should be under 500 at this point. But it's been one of those years where when they're hitting, they're not pitching, and when they're pitching, they're not fielding, and when they're fielding, they're not hitting. And the 3 facets just haven't all come together to give them that sustained run. So I think they were in that weird in-between place where they did not want to give away Blake Snell. He hadn't even thrown the no-hitter by the deadline, by the way, but his previous 4 starts, he had been the Blake Snell of his last 20 starts last year when he just went on this otherworldly run and went on to win his 2nd Cy Young Award. And so when teams were talking with the Giants about Blake Snell, they were asking for a significant return in prospects. Now, if he did not have the opt-out after this season, and if he did not have the $30 million salary if he decides to opt in, I think it would have been a different story. But because of all of the questions and all of the risk that comes with the type of contract that he has, I think teams were willing to take him on but not give up big prospects. And there was just, because of that risk, there was just no deal that was going to be had by anyone unless they were willing to pay up. And paying up when you have those questions about the contract just doesn't make a ton of sense, even if you are on the cusp of playoff contention. And I think it speaks to, Michael, the way that David Stearns is running baseball operations now. He is extraordinarily disciplined, and he believes that his way works. And honestly, I would too if I were him, because he was at a place in Milwaukee for a decade where he had limited resources and still managed to be the team in the division that was most successful over that period. And I look at it right now and what he's done in his first year running baseball operations for the Mets, and it feels like we are on the cusp of something really, really good happening in this organization. It's going to take a couple of years, but what they've got in Milwaukee right now, it's something as simple as they went from a terrible team signing players internationally to one of the best in baseball. And it's not just Jackson Churio, who's up at 20 years old and playing really, really well for them right now. But every year it seems like somebody's coming into their system who's going to be a star. And I think once that gets going in New York, and once he starts spending a little bit and signing those free agents on the margins, the Mets right now, to me, it doesn't look like it, but the Mets right now, to me, are the closest facsimile to what the Dodgers are, just in terms of the way that they're run and the machine that could come of it.
All right, so he's smart, he's disciplined, he's calculating. He didn't really have the ability, but never spent big money in Milwaukee. So that kind of ties up the conversation that we've had. Do you think the Mets will be real players for Soto? And does that run counter to the type of team he wants to build?
I don't think it does, because I think Andrew Friedman in Los Angeles is the perfect example. He never spent when he was with Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. What he did was he put good processes in place. He hired good people. He trusted his model, and he put an emphasis on scouting. And he went out and won. And then he went to the Dodgers, and he had these same questions. Right? Is Friedman just going to try and replicate what they had in Tampa? Is he not? No, like the opposite. He went out and traded for Manny Machado, and traded for Trey Turner and Max Scherzer, and traded for and signed Mookie Betts, and signed Freddie Freeman, and signed Shohei Ohtani, and signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Just because you have a small market mindset doesn't mean that you can't have a big market approach. The two are not mutually exclusive. There is a place where both of them can exist. And when both of them coexist and run alongside each other as well as they do in Los Angeles, what you have is a team that is great every year and sustainable. The Dodgers are always at the top of the National League West, and they are always near the top of prospect rankings around baseball. You can have your cake and eat it too. And that's where the discipline to me comes into play. I think David Stearns is a really good decision maker. And when you're making the right decisions, you know when to push and you know when to pull back. You know when to go all in, and you know when, hey, maybe this is a year where we're not going to go and be as aggressive as we have been in years past. And the difficulty is that I think once you start pushing, that fans get a little frustrated the years when you don't. But having a long-term view of this organization and having the power of both Steve Cohen's operation and his money behind David Stearns is a frightening combination that, yes, they will go after Juan Soto. They must go after Juan Soto, because very rarely do you see players of his caliber at his age reach free agency. And if all it costs is money, if you don't even have to give up prospects too, that's the ideal situation for a team like the Mets that's trying to build up its farm system to be as good as other organizations.
Well, then in closing, this is going to be one of the most fascinating November. So the Yankees and the Mets have never bid for the same player in free agency. This could turn out to be Hagler Hearns. It's going to be unbelievable.
It's going to be so awesome. I just, there are stories, and you know this, Michael, there are stories as a reporter that you really look forward to covering. And Juan Soto's free agency is at the top of the list for me, because I think that it's going to be, Hagler Hearns was like the greatest fight there ever was, right? Mm-hmm. But it almost feels like Hagler Hearns plus 50 pounds. Like, this is a heavyweight battle of great skill, and beyond that, just the rivalry, the fact that these are two teams in the same city that are looking to establish themselves as king of New York. And one player could turn the tide, and that one player is Juan Soto.
Well, you've pumped me up. Jeff, I thank you for coming on.
Michael, it's a pleasure, and I really enjoy having baseball conversations with you, so thank you for this.
You got it. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
See you, pal.
All right, that is Jeff Passan. Good stuff from him. So, hopefully the Yankees and the Mets are playing in October, but you know what? They're going to be playing in November against each other. That's going to be unbelievable. Who blinks? Who blinks? No one wants to lose that battle. And is there a wild card team that we're not thinking about? Will the Dodgers say, you know what? We want to play. The Giants always seem like they're trying for every big free agent. Will the Padres find that killer instinct again, despite Peter Seidler passing away? Chicago Cubs? Texas teams? I don't think it's just going to be the Yankees and the Mets, but wow. If it's just the Yankees and the Mets, I can't even imagine the one that doesn't come away with Juan Soto. We'll come back on Yes and ESPN New York.